What is up, guys? Fado82 coming at you with the 13th edition of Rust Cribs, in which we take a look at some of our noteworthy base designs during the past wipe cycle on the US Rustopia server. This series is also focused on taking a look at best practices in building, and to talk about how building your Rust has changed with each iteration of the game. Players adapt, they build differently, so we talk about best practices, and what you guys are taking a look at right now is some footage of a base put together by the LQM clan. As always, LQM brings their A game when it comes to building, and this is no exception. What you're also taking a look at is the first ever helicopter footage during a Rust Cribs video. So the attack chopper is fighting the LQM members. They're trying to take that chopper down while we're taking a look at the base. This happened by coincidence, and I'm very glad that we caught it, but it really is epic to see, and also in the context of this epic base is really awesome stuff. So taking a look at the base design, LQM focused their resources and really focused on one big base inside the compound this go around. It looks like a big medieval church, it has a crow's nest at the top, and it's really a cool design. I'm really digging it. When you build a base that's very focused and it has a very big footprint and not necessarily smaller individual bases, it is putting all your eggs in one basket, but it's also allowing you to focus all your resources on that base to make it very hard to raid and make it very unpredictable. As always, the inside of the base looks like a maze. We can't show it off because we don't do that in Rust Cribs, but taking a look at the outside of the base, some of the things you guys want to make note of are those shooting ports on the side. They actually look like triangles in this base design, but they're stations that the players can go to. They can fire other players or the helicopter in this instance, and that's a really big thing. Take note also of the flank towers positioned around the base. So even in the compound, even though that big base is their main base, there's additional towers to provide suppressing fire if raiders make their way inside the compound. Also, the furnaces are walled off, as well as the garden that they have here. The indoor marijuana grow op is not walled off, that's inside the base. But take a look at that chopper. They brought it down in their compound, it's burning down there, and it's really neat to see that. And now we're moving over and taking a look at the LST compound. As always, LST built a sprawling compound, but as with the LQM clan, they also focused most of their resources and put it in a main cylindrical base design over here. It's a uniform geometric base design that's very hard to raid. It takes a lot of rockets and a lot of C4 to get to any loot room. And something to take note of here is something that was incorporated in a lot of base designs this go around in Rustopia, which is that tower and then bridge system. So that tower with the LST sign there, the players will access the base by going up through that tower and then building a land bridge over with the twig tiles to the main part of the base, which is going to be the top of the base, and then enter in through that. That base is not meant to be raided from a bottom-up fashion, so that's something that you guys want to take note of. They also built here by a road. They walled it off with those wood perimeter walls, which is a really good choice because you want to block that off. And taking note of something here, guys, they use the geography to their advantage. Their back is to the sea. The front of the base has a mountain range in front of it, so the topography of this landscape was really well suited for a base design. Taking a look at the sprawling compound here, guys, you can see they also use those perimeter bases, those flank towers, which is something that you always want to go ahead and do. As day changes to night, take a look at the LST clan symbol here, which they're lighting up with fires. And as we pan out and take a look at that, you can really see that the footprint of that is quite large when we go up in the sky. We can see that from a great distance. As always, LST brought their A game when it comes to building. They're no exception to that rule. And now we're swinging over and taking a look at the DMG compound. This is Dirt McGirt and his crew, and as always, every wipe cycle on Rustopia, they try a different base design. In this case, they're in line with the other groups in that they put together one solid base as their main base, and in this instance, it's a big cube, a giant square down there. It might not be the most aesthetically pleasing base, but it's one that's going to be very hard to raid and very unpredictable in terms of figuring out where those loot rooms are going to be. It's a lot of resources to get in there, it's honeycombed up nicely, and it's something that is going to take a substantial effort to get to. As always, he's also using those flank towers, which is something that you want to go ahead and do, because if you're going to get raided, you're going to need to have a different vantage point other than your original base. There's some outer bases here where his slaves or workers work out of, and that's something that many clans employ. And taking a look at one of the most noteworthy aspects here, there's a large sign in the middle of the base that says DMG, stands for Dirt McGirt, but also for his clan name. Looks pretty cool lit up at night, but being more than just a symbolic feature, it actually is a functioning base in which members can go into that base and defend from those positions. So there's shooting ports in there, there's actually places they can store loot in there. So that is something that I think is just very, very cool. Taking a look as we pan out here in the night sky, you'll notice that, like the LST compound, has a very large radius to it when we look at it in the night sky. This is some footage from the past wipe cycle on Rustopia, and Dirt McGirt also put together a symbol there, but it's more of a Hollywood Hills type feel to it. It wasn't a living and breathing base like the other one. But that's something that we wanted to show off as well. We had that footage left over. Last wipe cycle, Dirt built a different type of a base. Instead of being a giant square, it had towers coming out of it, different ways to defend from it. And that's always something that you want to be able to employ in your base designs as well. Multiple locations to be able to shoot from. And this is a really cool base design. I really like how they integrated it with the landscape. I find bases that are integrated with the natural environment as being more aesthetically pleasing, and it's in line with the way that I like to build in Rust. There's a series of towers here which are connected by twig land bridges which can be removed to prevent access from being gained to those locations. And this was put in a location that's hard to access, hard to spot, and then by building those towers up, it gives them a good vantage point to be able to defend from. This base has a substantial portion of it that's underwater, so they actually had to build up from underneath the water in order to build it as high as they did. That's something that was very resource intensive, but it did pay off, and it allowed them to have a base that was unique, but also very well defended. As we go ahead and pan out here, you can see just how it's integrated with the landscape and given sort of natural protection by the mountain ranges. Now we're taking a look at the ZFG compound over here. They also use geography to their advantage. Their back is to the ocean, which is a place that typically raiders won't come from. And to the front of them, there's a rad town. They didn't go ahead and wall off that rad town, but by nature of having their base here, they were able to ensure that they had almost complete control over that area. Taking note, guys, here on the bottom of the base, there's a series of wood perimeter walls, which makes it very difficult to access that base. And when the raiders themselves, or when the defenders access the base, they actually use, again, that tower system in which they build up to the tower, and then they build over with that twig land bridge, which can be removed to prevent access from being gained easily to the base. Really a cool base design, and as always, it's in line with the other clans this go around on Rustopia. And now we're taking a look at a work of love here. It was Officer Sin and his girlfriend. They built two towers together, symbolizing their love for one another. And the couple that builds together is the one that stays together. By building the towers the way that they did, they were able to provide crossfire to one another. So when fools came in to raid their base, they were able to slay those fools. Really cool stuff. And as always, it's good to set up your towers in a way where you're going to be able to help each other out. We see Officer Sin up here with a sign that says that he loves his girlfriend, and it's always cool to show that off, so cool stuff, Sin. Hope you get laid tonight. Taking a look at a base that's right up from Sin's base, this is a base that says something creative, and this was a base that was very, very well thought out in terms of the inside of it. It's a rock base, a tower on top of a rock, but then inside of it, the way that you get up there is a little bit creative. We can't show you the inside of the base. It's not something we can do on Rustopia. We can't go ahead and breach confidentiality unless we're expressly given that, which we very rarely are. But it was a creative base design. We wanted to go ahead and just show it off. It's also cool because they are using that landscape to their advantage. They have the vantage point here. They have the height. If you build and you have the terrain like they do, you're going to have the advantage. As always, guys, if you give players enough tools and enough time on their hands, you're going to build a penis. So there's a phallic shaped base here that was built. It's got some ball sack on the bottom. It's got a shaft. It's got the head on the top. It's really well defined and really cool stuff. Not the most functional base design, but it's one that nonetheless is interesting to see. And as always, it's something we want to go ahead and show off that creativity of players on Rustopia. So guys, really hope you're enjoying Rust Cribs. Please leave feedback in the comments as to what you'd like to see differently. I really like doing this series. We try to do it every week. Sometimes we can't get to it every week, but we always save that footage and incorporate it in the next week's footage. As always, guys, Fado82, peace. Thanks for watching.